Hello and welcome. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness, and welcome to today's show. I am your host. I am an author, speaker, seminar leader, Mimi, gardener, quilter. Oh, just lots of things. I am who I say I am. And on this talk show, I'm talking about the world of thought. I like to explore the world of positive thinking, Bible-based law of attraction, and consciousness from many points of view. And it is my intention to share with you information that will enlighten and empower you in your life, because I am here to encourage you to think of the positive and show that miracles can happen, because I truly believe that you have been given the power of the word and thought to create the life that you desire. Oh, it is just so wonderful and beautiful today. The sun is out. We had a few days where it was really cloudy and gloomy, but it didn't rain. It was just, for me, miserable, because I'm one of these people who have a hard time when it's cloudy out. You know, in this time of year, this is November, and when I lived up north in Pennsylvania, I did experience depression, and for many years I couldn't figure out why and why I would feel the way I do, until somebody finally put a label on it and called it SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And it was because it was cloudy and no sun. So I learned about, and before I learned about it, let me go back a little bit. I used to do things to get myself occupied. One of the things I used to do is give this huge party in February. It was like the second weekend of February, and I would create a theme for it, and I had a big freezer. So starting about this time, I'd start thinking about the theme, what kind of theme I was going to do, what kind of food was I going to have. Yeah, I cooked a full meal dinner. And the very last party that I gave in Pittsburgh, the very last one, I think the invitation list was around between 80 and 90. And by that time, at least three-quarters of the people would show up. In fact, it got to the point for a while there that as they were walking out the door, they'd say, next year, same weekend, because we had fun. I had a wonderful time. And then I moved to Texas, and it all changed. It wasn't the same. Even though I had space to have the party, it just wasn't the same. My perception of life here in Texas actually changed. And that's what my topic is today, is your perception is your reality. I had many friends, and the people in Pittsburgh, it was people from my ex's work, my work, people from church, people that I've known for years, friends of friends. I just knew a lot of people, and I still do love to entertain. But life is different here in Texas, and right now during the beer virus, I like to call it that. Because of the beer called Corona. Anyway, but I'm not doing that entertaining anymore. Or I thought about inviting a couple friends over, and we'd be out on the side porch, and I've got a chimenea now, and I could have a nice fire there, and we could have hot toddies, and okay, so now I'm thinking about that. But perception, just think, if you're in a position to do this, just close your eyes. And I want you to think of a lemon. Okay? And I want you to mentally, and you can use your hands to do this, put a lemon to your nose. You know, can you smell that strong odor of the lemon? Can you perceive that? All right, now put that lemon down. Take a deep breath. Imagine smelling coffee. And if you're wondering why I chose coffee, well, when I was doing I used to do craft shows and I sold handmade soap. I still make my soap by myself, and I had lots of different fragrances, and so I'd keep on the side, I'd keep a small little can of coffee, because coffee will clear your nose palate. So just imagine smelling some coffee. Kind of strong, right? Okay, put the coffee down. Now, think of roses. I don't know, how you've perceived roses before, where you've smelled it, if you've, had a bouquet of roses, or you were somewhere else, where there were lots of flowers, a wedding or something of that nature. Can you perceive that? Yeah. Because it's all in your imagination. You've smelled it once and it's recorded in your brain. It's recorded in your olfactory, fancy word, for in your nose. It's recorded there. And so and your imagination can bring that back up. So yes, we're manifesting Neville Goddard this time, and he wrote a lecture called Perception. And as I was reading over that, it was like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I had a friend that I was spending a bit of time with, but I noticed that the way I was being treated. And so this one evening, I just said, I believe, and I said what I believed. And he came back and he said, your perception is your reality. And I've talked about this before on some other podcasts, but in a different way. But your perception is your reality. He walked out the door, and I've never seen him again. And it was like, my perception is my reality. No trying to say, well, let's talk about this. Or, why do you feel that way? No question. Just your perception is your reality. So my perception in him walking out the door, and I never saw him again, is that my perception was true. And that it really was my reality, and it really was the way I was seeing life and his behavior at the time. And of course, I talked to my friends about it, and they said, yeah, based on, these things, yeah. Right? So what about your perception as being your particular reality? According to Neville, there is nothing that appears in your perception that cannot be duplicated. And what the world perceives is all imaginative in character. And he talks about the fragrance of a rose and what our perception is. Because sometimes I go, well, what I see as green do you see that same thing as green? Is the wavelength that comes into your eyes the same? We're looking at the same item and I call it green and you call it green, but it may look different to you than it does to me. I always wondered about that. Have you? Our imagination allows us to live. It allows us to dream big dreams. Our imagination allows us to say, I want to create this. For me, like I'm looking at my side porch and I'm looking at, and I created that side porch, but I created it from my imagination. My imagination said that I wanted a certain kind of table and I wanted an umbrella and I want, certain chairs and I wanted it organized in a certain way and I wanted, and it, and little by little, color scheme and everything, it came to be. But initially, it was in my imagination. Initially, I had said I wanted a chimney, but, I really didn't want to pay the price for it until this one place had the thing on sale at a price I was willing to pay, and I now have a chimney on the porch. For those of you that don't know what a chimney is, it's like a fireplace with a chimney, right? So having that, using your imagination, helps you to create the life that you want. Neville often quotes a writer by the name of William Blake. And this particular quote he used was from 1820 that William Blake wrote. The presence of the divine teacher is the name of the article. And listen to this. Man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us and us in him. The divine body Jesus, we are all his members. And we all are. We are imagination. When we look at, let's say the Genesis, let there be not light, let there be a division between day and night. The creation of earth, of animals, of man, of flowers, of insects, it was all thought of an imagination. And if God is imagination and you have imagination and you can imagine, would it not be that God is part of you? Or that Jesus said that God is within inside you, and I've talked about this many times, within you. And you go inward. When you pray or you meditate, you go inward. You don't go outward. You go inside of you. Neville goes on to say, he says, in this statement, Blake does not separate the members from the one body, the one spirit, the one hope, one Lord, one faith, one God, and Father of us all. There is only one imaginal body, and we are all its members, for we are all imagination. Sometimes I go back and I think and I go, what if I am not who I perceive myself to be? What if I'm just some brain in some jar and I'm creating this world? What if I am just a spirit in another world and a piece of me is here creating and having this life? We are spiritual beings having a human existence. What if that is true? You see, based on your perception of how the world is, you live your life. Based on how you see things and in your imagination, you have a life. If you perceive that everyone is against you and nobody loves you, your life will be that way. And every misstep or any conversation or anything that a person says to you, you will take it as being negative and against you. But if you perceive your life in the world as being positive and there's good in the world and you can find it, you will. You have the capability of reproducing anything that you have in your perception through your imagination. You think of a friend, think of someone that is no longer in your life. But if you close your eyes and think of them, you can probably see them. You can hear their voice. If they had a particular beautiful smell that you recognize, you can perceive that just like you could perceive that lemon or that rose that I talk about in the beginning of this conversation. I recently took a trip to Sedona and I can close my eyes and I can see Montezuma's well. I can see Montezuma's castle. I can see the church that has this beautiful cross upon it. I can see the timeshare apartment that I was staying in. I can see the drive going down the mountain or up the mountain, going into Sedona or coming out of Sedona. I can visualize that all in my mind, in my imagination. And so when you are in meditation or you're in meditative prayer and you are imagining things that you would like or the things that you desire, you are drenched in feeling and emotion. And that perception of what you desire is still there. Your imagination is very strong. And if you look around your life and look around at things that are in your life, at some time, they were in your imagination and what you wanted to do within that imagination. And sometimes I look around and I go, why did I buy that? Why did I get that? Why did I put that there? And then I think about what I was imagining at the time, and it was like, yeah, there's a reason why you did that. There was a reason why things look the way they are and the way things look the way they are today. Perception and imagination. Everything here around me, around you, was once imagined. And the source of all of everything is a divine imagination, and you're part of that. So God being inside of you, this entity inside of you, is what allows you to create the life that you currently have. And so, you just think about what your life is like. Think about what you basically desire. And imagine it in your life. What is it that you want? What is it that you desire in your life? Neville writes about a lot of things, and sometimes I read his things and I go, I'm not quite sure about that, right? And then I read on a little bit more and I go, oh, Yeah, I think he's right about that. Because he based a lot of his information on the scriptures. But today, I want to make sure that I shared with you this whole idea about perception. And I want you to think of your imagination. I want you to think about how you react to when people talk to you, or when you see things, or you read things, or you listen to things, and see how your perception of that information creates your reality. Thank you for listening today. Please share the link to this show with your friends and family so that they can learn how to be the best that they can be. Visit my website at commandingyourlife.com and follow me on Facebook. Have any suggestions for the show? Just contact me by emailing Beverly at commandingyourlife.com. Be sure to join me on the next episode. As you have believed, let it be done to you, and it is so.